Okay. So, as far this course is concerned, we have total 10 chapters, right, sir? So, have you seen the index? Have you seen the index?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So, we have totally 10 chapters to cover. So, from basic to the filing of GSTR 1 and 3B and so on. Okay. Today, let's start with the basics in the GST. Okay. Before going to the GST topics, let us understand about the tax. So, how many taxes are there? So, we have in India, in India, there are two types of taxes. Mainly we can divide into two types of taxes, right? The first one is direct tax. Okay, direct tax. And the second one is indirect tax. Okay, first one is direct tax and second one is indirect tax. So direct tax means it is totally related to the income tax. It is totally related to income tax. And what about this? Indirect tax means it is sales tax. Okay, sales tax. So, what is income tax? Income tax means why we are calling this as a direct tax and why we are calling this sales tax as an indirect tax. Here you need to understand the basic things. So, income tax means suppose if you are earning 5 lakh rupees as an income, either from the salary or from the business, if you are earning the income, on that income you need to pay some tax to the government, right? So that tax you will be paid directly to the government. So no a middleman. So when you are paying the tax directly to the government, so that tax is known as the direct tax. So how we are paying the indirect tax? So here you see, suppose if you purchase some product, suppose you say a mobile phone, if you purchase a mobile phone from the shop, what you will do? He will give you a invoice, right? In that invoice, mobile price is 8,000 plus let us discuss tax is 2,000. Final bill is how much? 10,000, right? So what amount you will be paid to the shop person? You will pay this 10,000, right? It includes the tax amount plus the mobile, right? So this both includes 10,000. You will pay this 10,000 to the shop person, right? So which is includes the tax also. Now this 10,000, out of this 10,000, 2,000 rupees tax amount you are paying to the shop person. You are paying to the vendor, right? This particular shop person, this tax amount will be paid to the government. Indirectly, who is paying this tax amount? You are paying as a customer, you are paying this tax amount to the shop and the shop person is paying to the government. So indirectly government is collecting the tax from you only. That's why we are calling this sales tax as indirect tax. Okay, now you understand, right? Sales tax, why we are calling it as indirect tax? Indirectly we are paying the tax to the government, so that's why we are calling it as indirect tax. But as for the income tax, straight away based on the slabs, based on the income tax slabs, you are calculating your tax and you are directly paying to the government. So that's why we are calling it as direct tax. So in this duration of this course, we are going to discuss a lot about this sales tax. Have you understood or not? So from basic to the advanced, maximum we can cover maximum out of it, no problem. So now this indirect tax, I mean the sales tax, here we are calling it as GST. Okay, what is GST? First thing you need to understand what is GST. Before going straight away into the topic, now let us discuss what before GST. Okay, now we are going with the goods and service tax, right? So we are going one nation one tax, we are calling it as now. But before coming GST, we had lot of taxes, we need to study about service tax, right? We need to study about the service tax. We need to study about the VAT. VAT means value added tax. and we need to study about CST. CST means what? Central Sales Tax. We need to study about excess duty. Okay, we need to study about excess duty. We need to study about again customs. Okay, all these things you have to study very carefully if you want to do any business, or if you want to get a job as an accountant or in the finance department, whatever it may be. You need to have knowledge in all these topics, then only you can survive. Okay, now what happened after coming the GST? So we had a slogan called one nation one tax, right? So one nation one tax. So what it means? We have so many type of taxes in the previous, right, before coming to GST. Now we have only one tax. All these are merged and they are created as GST. So we have one tax only. But what about the customs? So customs we need to study separately. It is not included in the GST. Okay, we need to study separately. It is not included in the GST. Okay, now is there any benefit by implementing the GST? Definitely there is a benefit after implementing the GST. As per the government, the revenue has increased when comparing to the VAT. But as per concern, the business, there are so many obligations used to be there before GST. They need to maintain so many records. They need to file the service tax returns. They need to file the VAT returns. So everything for accounting also there used to be lot of job to do for every month. But now after coming to the GST, just filing 2 normal returns in the GST, that's enough. So lot of burden has been reduced after coming the GST. Okay, here you see, let me tell you the small example. Suppose if you go to the restaurant, the bill is 1000 rupees, you think. Okay, this is before GST. This is before GST. 1000 rupees bill. On this bill, you need to pay, first thing is service tax. Service tax you need to pay. How much is the service tax? It will be depends upon the state. Okay, in some states there used to be 12%, in some states there used to be 14%. These are maintained by the state government. Okay, state governments only. So tax rate will be different from state to state. So let us suppose normal rate will be that 12% should be the service tax rate. Some states there used to be 14% also. And VAT also used to pay. How much? VAT will be 14%. There should be VAT of 14%. Now how much bill you need to pay? See, 1000 rupees is the actual bill, plus VAT 12% means 120 rupees, plus service tax means 120 rupees, and VAT is 140 rupees. So final bill amount you need to pay how much? 1260 rupees, right? So 1260 rupees you need to pay your final bill. So 120, 240, 260, yeah, 1260 rupees you need to pay your final bill. But after the GST, how much you need to pay? See, same bill, 1000 rupees. Okay, now do you have these 2 taxes? No, we don't have these 2 taxes. Directly we have only GST. Clear? GST on restaurants, we have slogan, right? One nation, one tax. So this is the one tax we are paying. One nation means what? So wherever you go to the restaurants in the India, you have only 5% of tax. That's it. Here what happens? No, the service tax rate will be different from state to state. Here the VAT rate will be different from state to state. But in the GST, what you are having means wherever you go in the India for the restaurant, you will have only 5% as tax in GST. So for the restaurant, we have only 5% of tax. Now, what will be the amount? So 1000 rupees will be the restaurant bill. On this 5% means 50 rupees. That's it. So 1050, if you pay the GST, that's enough. So our tax burden has been reduced, right, after coming the GST. So from before onwards, we are calling it as GST. So what is the full form of GST? What is the full form of GST? GST means we have two things in the GST. First one is goods. Okay, first one is goods, and second one is service. You need to define these two things very carefully. Clear or not? Here, what happens now? Before, the service tax completely used to deal with services. Okay, here the VAT is completely to deal with goods. So, if you want to study about the VAT, then goods. If you are studying about the services, then service tax. But here in the GST, these two concepts were included, and straight away we are calling it as GST, on which we are paying the tax. Simply we are calling it as goods and service tax. Okay, goods and service tax. Here you need to understand which board is maintaining the service tax and which board is maintaining the direct tax. Okay, here you see we have two taxes, right? Direct tax and indirect tax. So this direct tax is totally maintained by one authority. That authority is known as CBDT. This basic idea you need to have. This one is full form Central Board of Direct Taxes. Clear or not? Central Board of Direct Taxes. Here, what about this indirect tax? This indirect tax will be maintained by one board. That board is known as CBIC. CBIC, Central Board of, any guesses? Any guesses? Central Board of Indirect Taxes and Customs. Okay, before I told you, right, here all these taxes were included, but customs is not included in this GST. So that's why we are mentioning separately Central Board of Indirect Taxes and Customs. Yeah, Central Board of Indirect Taxes and Customs. Clear or not? So this is the background of GST. But when the struggle has been started for the GST, before we had VAT, right? Over the night we cannot get all these acts. There should be lot of hard work behind this. So when it is started, so the concept of GST, okay, the word GST has been started in the year of 2000. Okay, in the year of 2000. So over the period it has faced so many struggles. Finally, when we got the GST Act, GST law, 2017 we got the GST Act. Okay, 2016 it is approved, and from 2017 July, the GST has been started. From the date the new law is been implemented all over the India. Clear or not? All over the India. Now in the GST, we are calling it as GST, right? So GST means goods and service tax. In the GST we had some type of taxes. What type of taxes? We had CGST, SGST, IGST, UTGST. Okay, CGST, SGST, IGST, and one more thing is UTGST. Many of you are familiar with these three type of taxes, but we have one more type called UTGST. So what is this UTGST? UTGST, I will tell you, no problem. See here, what is this? This is Central Goods and Service Tax. Okay, see, Central Goods and Service Tax. What is SGST? SGST means State Goods and Service Tax. What is IGST? IGST means Integrated Goods and Service Tax. What is UTGST? This is Union Territory. Union Territory Goods and Service Tax. Okay. So based on this, by seeing the invoice, can we identify whether CGST, SGST, IGST, whatever should be there? So the first thing I need to confirm you, GST is a destination based tax. Okay, destination based tax. Clear? Destination based tax means, here see, destination based tax means, suppose my state is Andhra. My state is Andhra. Okay. So now I am selling these goods to Karnataka. So I am selling these goods to Karnataka. So this is other state, right? This is other state. So this is my home state. This is my home state, and this is the other state. Now I am in Andhra Pradesh. I am selling these goods to the Karnataka. This is the first scenario. And second scenario, my state is Andhra only. My state is Andhra, and I am selling the goods within the state. Within the state, Andhra only. Here what happens now? When I am selling the goods to the other state, my tax will be different. When I am selling the goods within the state, our tax will be different. Here, this scenario, we call this scenario, when we are selling the goods to the other state, we call this scenario as clearly listen, interstate sales. Here we call this as intra-state sales. Even purchases also the same thing. When we are purchasing from the other state, we call those purchases as interstate purchases. When we call the other state, when we are purchasing from our state, okay, within the state, we call this as intrastate purchases. In normal language, if you are preparing the accounts to the tally, in normal language we call this as local or non-local. So here interstate, right? So this we call it as non-local. Okay, non-local. Here we call this as local. So local and non-local. Local means within the state. Non-local means outside the state. When there is interstate sales or interstate purchases, in your bill you will have IGST, Integrated Goods and Service Tax. When you have sales within the state, these sales we can call this as intrastate sale or local sale. So in the bill what we can have as CGST and SGST. So two type of taxes we should have in our bill. So when you see any tax invoice, if you find only GST, only IGST, what you can call? You can call this as non-local bill. You can identify that bill. They have purchased that goods from other state. When you see the bill, if you find CGST and SGST, so what you should understand, that particular goods they brought within the state. Clear or not? So by seeing the tax itself, you have to understand very clearly. The first thing you need to understand as an accountant, by seeing the tax invoice, you need to understand whether they have purchased the goods in the local or from the outside of the state. Clear or not? So you have to be very careful about calculating the tax. Clear or not? So if it is a non-local bill, definitely you should have IGST. If it is a local bill, you should have what? CGST and SGST. Now coming to the tax rate, how do we calculate the tax rate? So here what happens now? Government has defined for every product there are particular tax rates. Clear? Here what are the tax rates we are having means, so first thing we are having the 0%, 5%, 5%, next 12%, next what? 18%, next 28%. Okay, these are the tax rates we usually find outside, but there are some tax rates depends upon their business registration. Okay, that we can discuss it later. Now basically we have these tax rates. Okay, these are tax rates we deal with in GST normally. Okay, now what happens now? The tax rate does not affect. Here you see, when you purchase directly from outside the state, suppose you have 5% rate of goods. Now straight away on this total value you need to calculate directly the 5%. Suppose the tax value, suppose the taxable value, suppose 10,000, or let us discuss it as 5,000. Sorry, only for easy calculation, the goods value is only 1,000 rupees. On this, how much you have to calculate? So tax 5%. So how much? 50 rupees. So here you got 1,050, right? Now how to calculate? How we have to call? Our accounting language will be there, right? In GST, see here, this 1,000 rupees we call it as taxable value. Okay, taxable value. This 50 rupees we call it as tax amount, and this 1,050 we call it as invoice value. Okay, clear or not? Invoice value. So taxable value plus tax, we will get invoice value. Okay, clear or not? So the same way, if you, the same 5%, if you purchase that same product within the state, the tax will not be the tax will not change. Here the same tax rate will be divided into two taxes. How much? One is 2.5% CGST. Okay, second thing 2.5% SGST. That's it. So wherever you purchase, if you purchase from outside the state, you get 5% as a GST. When you purchase the same product within the state, you will get 5% as a GST. But this 5% you need to separate and show in the invoice. Clear or not? So this CGST, that means Central Goods and Service Tax, will be going directly to the central government, and this state government state GST will be going directly to the state government. Clear or not? So these are the taxes you need to identify by seeing the invoices. Clear or not? So this 5% means directly you need to give for the IGST, but the same product within the state means you need to give 5% as CGST, 2.5% as CGST and 2.5% as SGST. Clear or not? Okay, clear or not? Yeah. Now the second one, you see, what is input tax and what is output tax? So these are the terms we come over the period of time. Okay, daily we use these terms what is input, what is output. Input tax means what, output tax means what. So here input tax means the tax which you are paying on purchases. Clear or not? Pay on purchases, that is input tax. We will discuss very clearly about this input tax and output tax. Now for the time being you need to understand what is input tax means, the tax which you are paying on purchases, and the second one is what is output tax, the tax which we need to pay on our sales. Pay on sales. So input tax and output tax. Input tax means what? The tax which we are which we are pay on purchases. The tax we call it as input tax, and the tax which we need to pay on our purchases, that tax is known as output tax. So clear or not? Now what is the tax you need to pay to the government? The simple calculation means, see here, output. So see here, output tax minus input tax. Output tax minus input tax is equals to tax tax payable to government, or you can say balance tax payable, balance tax payable. Clear or not? So what is the tax you need to pay to the government? Simply we can identify what is the input tax we are having and what is the output tax we need to pay. If you reduce input tax from the output tax, simply we can get one figure. That figure is known as what? Tax payable to the government. Clear or not? Okay. Here tax payable to the government, we got it right. Next, we had some HSN codes, HSN code and SAC code, right? So what is this HSN code and what is this SAC code? Here what happens now, government has identified the tax rates for a lot of products. Okay, that products has been categorized in a particular way. Clear or not? So for every category of product we need to identify the tax rate, right? So for identifying the tax rate for every product they have given one code. Clear? That code we call this as HSN codes, right? One second. Hello? Yavandi. Okay, let me check. Sir, can you hear me? Some audio is not audible, I think. Sir, can you hear me? Please confirm. Not getting your voice. Sir, please confirm. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm hearing.
Okay.